Hey, hi ho, and howdy everybody. My name is Shannon Shook, and today I'm thinking about talking about something just a little bit extra. Hola, mis amigos. Mi amo es Shannon el Shook, and that's the full amount of Spanish I ever managed to retain in like 4 or 5 years of Spanish, and that's about as good as I got. And you know what? Even that's fucked up. Even what I said there is wrong in at least multiple ways. I know. I just don't know how. Hey, hi ho, and howdy everybody. My name is Shannon Shook, and welcome to yet again another episode of the RWBY Review Cap Extra. In this case, talking all about that sweet, tasty, delicious, alone together. That's the name of the episode. I realized in the last, towards the end of the last episode, I mentioned the title as Together Alone, which, while I mean technically makes exactly as much sense as the actual title, it is incorrect, and I am a stupid person. So my apologies for that, but it also doesn't matter to the 3 people who watch my videos. But to the 3 people who watch my videos, you're fantastic, and I love you, and you make me want to cry sometimes, because as someone who is terrible at what he does, the fact that anyone even is like, kind of like, hey, I think it's alright-ish. You don't gotta kill yourself, it's not that bad. You should at least, like, cut off your pinky toe, though. I mean, like, I know, it's very inspiring, so I want to thank everyone who leaves a kind comment every once in a while about how they enjoy what I do. Actually, someone did mention in a previous comment that they would be liking to see me get back to doing stuff again, even if it meant going back and dealing with things in Volume 4, and I would like to do that here at some point. Again, I think the plan is going to be, I'm going to finish up doing the Review Cap Extra for the rest of the volume, because I think that's just where I'm at, and then I think the plan is I want to go back and finish up review capping, like actually factually review capping Volume 4. And then after that, in theory, I will continue picking up where I left off in this volume, all the way back in episode goddamn 2. Because I would like to get all that put together. But, you know what, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about me or how beautiful I am, though you're allowed to if you'd like to all of the none of you who've seen what I look like. It's not worth it. You don't want to. It's bad. Point is, though, we're here to talk about fuck whatever the goddamn title of the goddamn episode is. I don't know. I don't have it pulled up because I'm an idiot. Also, I've spent the last 3 weeks trying to upload one goddamn video, and because it's a little bit longer than everything else, it's taken 9.5 years, and I'm just gonna record stuff in the background while it's going, because otherwise I'm going to want to just set myself on fire. But that's okay, because we're here to talk about this episode, and what an episode it is. This was actually one of my favorite episodes in the volume, at least up until this point. Purely because I don't know, there was a lot to like about it. As with every episode, it's broken up into a few different sections. In this case, primarily broken up into, I guess it's just kind of 2 big sections. And I do want to apologize if I miss anything again. I'm an idiot, I'm a rambler, I'm a fool. Also, again, don't have the video pulled up, and I'm kind of going off of memory here. Because my internet's so garbage that I can't pull the fucking video up. Especially not while I'm working on this shit in the background. But anyway, in this episode, it's primarily broken up into 2 sections, and that is the Ranger RWBY side of things. Ranger RWBY. I like the sound of that. And also, it's kind of broken up into the Menagerie Blake side of things. And we're gonna go through. Let's go through Ranger and RWBY first, because they start off the episode. Anyway, so the episode basically starts off with RWBY kind of chilling out and daydreaming out in Mistral, just kind of looking up at the skies. There's birds and stuff, and then motherfucking sneak attack by Yang, an adorableness, and it's great and it's awesome. And sometimes I need reminding why I love that character so goddamn much. And I admit that even if that Viz Media survey that they did on Twitter a while back was all like, what's your favorite thing? Or what's your favorite member of Team RWBY? And I was like, Weiss. In my heart, I was dying because I also wanted to say Yang, but I could only pick one. And point is, Viz Media, you're mean to me. Anyway. Yeah, so Yang shows up and basically starts hanging out with her sister, and they're just chatting there for a little while. And of course, Weiss follows suit shortly after, bringing the gang their coffee. I approve. Delicious. Admittedly, that was hot coffee. This is iced. Fucking hot coffee. It's not good. Anyway, she basically brings that. There's a cute little callback to, what's a volume? Yeah, it would have been all the way back in Volume 1 of RWBY, with the blasphemous amounts of cream and sugar for RWBY, and I thought it was really adorable. Anyway, we have this fun little discussion, and basically it devolves down to talking about how exciting it is that everyone's kind of back together, which obviously leads to the point of not everybody is back together. There's still one very important person missing in this group, and that's of course Blake. Which, while RWBY and Weiss are like, oh yeah, no, that's sad, that sucks, Yang eventually turns the conversation to, yeah, well, fuck Blake because she's not here and she ran away. Which, yeah, she's not happy about that. Which, again, I can understand. You can really understand where Yang's coming from. As she mentions it later in this episode anyway. She kind of does just get abandoned by everyone that she knows and cares about, including Blake in this case. She mentions how her mother abandoned her. RWBY's mother ended up leaving and never coming back. Admittedly, the whole dying thing I don't think was a huge part of Summer's, like, oh, this is how it's gonna go. But I mean, that's how that ended up going as well. RWBY ended up leaving her to go off on this journey to Mistral. And of course, again, you have Blake abandoning them. Again, not for the reasons Yang seems to believe that she does, but still, that is kind of what she ended up doing, even if in the end she did do it for them. But that's a whole other discussion about Blake and her issues from last volume and every other volume who came before that. Girl's got some issues. But, yeah, basically comes down to that, and there begins to be a bit of a hissy fit is thrown. And I think it's really good to see that side of Yang, continuing to see her more and more expressive. Because that's something I always really like. Is I mean, I don't like it because it's sad, but I do like it because I always enjoy delving into more about the interactions between characters, even if they're not there. That definitely does paint a huge picture of Yang and Blake's relationship as friends, or more for those who tend to want to dance and prance about the Bumblebee Road. So, you know, I really did enjoy that kind of look at it, and especially considering how upset it made her, to the point where she's breaking out the fire eyes, the Doomageddon-ocalypse. You know, I thought it was a good scene. It was definitely I liked how it showed off her being legitimately upset about what Blake did, especially since it was kind of the question was, how does she react to that? Does she react as poorly as Blake thinks that she would? Does she, which is what the case ended up being, or does she end up just forgiving her? And well, she fucking doesn't, at least not at this point. But we're actually going to skip ahead a little bit in the same episode, because we're going to talk about, because it bleeds into the next section as well, which is it's later, where Yang is in the assumedly just the room that her and probably, I would assume, Weiss are staying in, or where her and RWBY, I guess, would probably be more likely, are staying at their little house. and she's basically just staring at the one picture of Team RWBY that we saw in Volume 4, which is like still one of my favorite little pieces of art. I still don't know, is that fan art or is that... This is a legitimate question that I can't remember the answer. If that was fan art that someone did, or if that was just art created specifically for the show. I can't remember. All I know is I fucking love that picture that she has. Anyway, and it's basically her just sitting there reminiscing and thinking, and assumedly probably getting a little more upset still about the whole Blake thing. And it's that point where there's a knock at the door, and she immediately assumes it would be RWBY, which also kind of makes me think it's their room as well, but... and the fact that it turned out to be Weiss, I thought was an incredibly... It was a really good thing. I like that there's a lot more interaction between the different members of Team RWBY, especially with Weiss and Yang this volume. Because out of all of them, they really don't interact, never really interacted that much in the back or the earlier half of the show anyway. I think RWBY and Blake top them out, because I vaguely remember someone mentioning that RWBY and Blake have yet to ever have a fucking on-screen conversation. Which might not be entirely false now that I think about it. At least if they do, they don't have an abundance of it. Anyway, you know, so instead of RWBY coming to the door and Weiss being like, "Oh yeah, well, RWBY, I know what you're gonna say," but, and then it being Weiss, I thought it was really good. I do really enjoy those two, the interactions between those two characters. So it's an enjoyable time. I like it. I like it when my friends, my fictional friends, are talking to each other and explaining and experiencing and making out. I don't like whatever they got to do. I'm okay with it and I approve. Basically, so yeah, Weiss joins in on Yang's sob session, and Yang immediately jumps to the defense of her explaining, again, like I mentioned before, this I think is that part, where she goes on to, explain to Weiss her abandonment from everyone around her. Like to remind her that she doesn't bring up Ty or Crow, because they didn't, well, I mean, I guess Crow did abandon her in that he went to go after and protect RWBY instead, so I could see that, but, I mean, Ty never did that. I mean, he shut down, which I guess would be an argument in itself after losing Summer, but I don't know. Seemed like he was pretty fucking there for her every time we've ever seen him. But anyway, she goes on to explain all that and basically comes to the final point of, like, you don't understand what that feels like. You, as a person, have spent your entire life with people who care about you. You got this rich family who gives you everything you ever wanted. You have all these people who care about you, your sister, your brother, all this stuff. Your mother, your father. And, of course, that leads Weiss to go on to explain, no, that's not the fucking case at all. My mom's a fucking shut-away drunk. My dad's a horrible piece of shit who did nothing but join into or marry into the family just so that he could get all the money and get all the fame, glory, and stuff that he could ever want. My brother's a fucking shitbag who just wants to appease my fucking dad. And the only person I really have is Winter, who ain't fucking around at all. Yeah, who was around for a total of 2 episodes and about 15 seconds of a character short. So, and then she kind of goes on to explain that, you know, everyone has their own loneliness. Everyone has their own reasons that they do what they do. They have their reasons for why they're not here right now. And she basically goes on to, while not specifically saying, because she probably doesn't 100% understand as well, but at least she has the inkling of an idea of kind of like trying to explain maybe Blake's perspective on it. Which we, of course, know is Blake ran away to protect everyone else. She ran away because she thought she could do nothing but bring them harm. And it was because that she cared so much that she decided to make this potentially wrong decision that did end up doing more harm than good for these, for Yang and for these people. For these people, what? Sorry, again, brain. Yeah, no, so basically explain that, and while it doesn't 100% get resolved, it definitely does, I think, leave Yang with a lot more to think about, which is a good thing, giving them a little bit of a push, because a lot of the time, the characters, the members of Team RWBY specifically, handle things in less than stellar ways, especially someone like Yang and Blake. Also, again, for the shippers, there's the whole Yang going like, what if I needed her here for me? Which, again, is understandable, and not just from a relationship standpoint, but from a friendship standpoint as well. Because, yeah, no, she, again, comes back to that abandonment. She probably really needed people to be there for her. And admittedly, she didn't really help that situation because she kept pushing people away. I mean, like, when RWBY jumps to try and help her after the events of the Fall of Beacon, she just shoves her the fuck away and just like, nah, I can't deal with any of this right now. And it's that eternal struggle. And it's just the thing about characters and shows and people in general is, yeah, sometimes they do just act like people. And people sometimes just make the wrong decision. They make life harder for themselves in an attempt to make it easier. It's hell. I have been known to be a depressive individual through a significant portion of my life, and the amount of times when I needed help, just pushed everyone away. I definitely understand that mindset. That's also why I know it's definitely the wrong one to have, but I can understand it, and I understand why someone makes the decision to push someone away, even if they need that help. Anyway, so, that's basically that whole RWBY Ranger section of the episode. Again, it's just a lot of discussion over, most specifically, Yang's opinions on Blake's abandoning, quote-unquote, her leaving and making the decisions that she made. And I thought it was really good. Again, I like the interactions between characters, especially, again, Weiss and Yang. I thought it was really cool to both show Weiss's perspective to everyone else a little bit more, or at least to the characters in the show, I should say. Not everyone else. We've seen the shit. Yeah, going off and expressing herself to the rest of her team more, as well as Yang getting that perspective. I really like that. Anyway, on to the second half of the episode, which is devoted again to Blake in Menagerie. And basically, when we first join up with them again, Blake is, kind of doing the same thing as RWBY, just kind of daydreaming, in this case, night dreaming, which wouldn't that just be regular dreaming, but she's also not asleep. Point is, she's out on a balcony, and she's off kind of just thinking about things. And of course, Sun is interrupting in the background, like, hey, what you doing? We got stuff to go do. Let's go check out the nocturnal section, which I think was a really nice touch. I like that. That makes total sense. Why wouldn't there be a nocturnal section for the island of fucking Faunus? I like you, Rooster. I see what you do, Rooster Teeth, and I like this. I like these things that you do. All these, you do a lot of things, and I like them. Anyway. So I thought that was a good touch. And basically, after that, she goes on to find a note, which kind of just say, that's the most random thing. Just like, what was Ilia's plan if she didn't find the fucking note?
So, Sister Ilia, we want you to sneak attack Blake while she's not paying attention. Now, you go over and you set up a master plan trap thing. Like, yes, I'll do that.
duct tapes a fucking sticky note to the fucking side of the porch.
Sister Ilia, what if she doesn't even find it? Fuck, I didn't think about that.
I'm just gonna say is, you probably could have had a more, better planned. I'm just gonna say is, you're really lucky this is a TV show, and some things just kind of need to work out ways, because if I was Blake, I would have completely missed it, and you'd be sitting there with your thumb up Yuma's ass. I don't know why his and not your own. I'm gonna say is you'd be sitting there playing fucking Pac-Man, because I'd be off in the nocturnal section. Anyway, she finds a note, which basically is a message from Ilia saying that, hey, you should come over, we should talk, come alone, we need to have a discussion about this kind of thing. And so Blake decides to do this. Not before Sun shows up again. But anyway, she does decide to go on this, and eventually goes all the way off into some other part of Kuokawana, where she encounters Ilia sneaking around in a dark alley with that super dark, black, spooky cloak and skin and Madoo thing she do, which I love. And she basically runs back there, and they have a discussion for a while about, again, the usual. Hey, Adam's an asshole. Well, you should come with us, and we can be friends, and we can get this done. And actually, Blake's pretty adamant about it, oh yeah, no, it's good. No, we got this. Now, you've been forgiven. We're golden. Now, you can fix this by helping us, and it'll be great. To which Ilia responds, I'm sorry, and eventually springing the trap on Blake, with Yuma fucking Batmaning his way down from the goddamn sky, and given homegirl the finest case of a fucked up rib cage, which that sounded like it hurt too. I gotta give him props again to for whatever reason, whenever it comes to Blake specifically, RT really knows how to make me wince in pain of just like, that's a little too real, I don't like that. It was like that when they're fucking what? When they're fucking, when she's confronting Adam during the Fall of Beacon and he slaps her, like, for being a show where a woman literally gets melon hammered through a fucking hole in the roof, and then she falls about, at least a minute before she actually hits the ground again. The slap to the face felt more real and way more painful purely because it felt more real. It's the same way. There was another instance in Volume 3 as well. It's when Roman is beating the shit out of RWBY with his cane. Like, the first thwack when she's on the ground is like his cane hitting the side of the ship, and just like that feels real, and it makes it hurt so much more in my heart. Anyway, so there's that, and basically he jumps down, knocks her down, smashes her chest against the ground, and she gets all the fucking air knocked out of her lungs, which is another one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, no, that feels real. That feels like you're sitting there suffocating, trying to fucking breathe. Anyway, so yeah, she gets jumped by Yuma, and then subsequently gets roped up by Sister Trifa, who is a spider Faunus, which is kind of really dope. And I kind of really dig that. That's a good touch. I always love more interesting, different types of Faunus, especially Faunus which have, that don't just have normal animal traits, like, say, Adam has his horns, or Blake's got some ears, but, traits that the Faunus in particular can use to their advantage and use in special ways, like Ilia. Her chameleon trait is an extremely unique and interesting thing that I really like. Trifa, again, she's got her fucking Spider-Man grind on with her thwipping about and shit. And of course, more just, normal but still very useful traits like Yuma being able to fly, or, say, Sun with his monkey tail. Anyway, she gets bopped and then wrapped up in the arms of a spider Faunus. But not arms, it's the webs. anyway, she gets wrapped up there, and then basically Ilia and her have another confrontation, with Ilia basically giving out the main plan being that, you know, your parents have to go. They gots to die. They got to go the way of Sienna Khan, which was mentioned again in the last discussion with Corsic and Dickhead. I can't say Corsic and Dickhead. They're both Dickhead. It's Dickhead and Dickhead. We're the Albanes, a bunch of dickheads. A bunch of foxy fucking dickheads. Anyway, it basically goes on to explain that, which obviously Blake takes a little bit of exception to. And Ilia then goes on to explain, like, okay, yeah, well, we gotta kill your parents. It's gotta happen. This is happening. Don't worry about it. And you are going to get shipped off to Adam to be his whatever. I don't even want to think about that. That's creepy. He's abusive and a fucking weirdo. Also, they dated, so who knows what they did. I don't want to think about the parts and the things and the slapping and He's an uncool gentleman, that's all I can say. Anyway, so basically it comes down to that, and it's at this point that Ilia reveals something really noteworthy. And I think this is really interesting, especially due to how people perceived it and how it was handled in the show. And this for me is really interesting because I know there were some people in particular who didn't care for the way it was handled. To those people, shut up. To everyone who thought it was fine, right? Anyway, basically, it's at this part that Ilia ends up revealing that she had feelings for Blake, which is something that I'll know a lot of people, including myself, earlier on in the show, like, had theorized, like, you know, it would be interesting if Ilia and Blake had a relationship. I had actually thought that they maybe have had a relationship a la, or in the same way that Adam and Blake did. But no, it was very much a one-sided thing on Ilia's part, while Blake was all like, I want some of me that bull peen. I mean, you know what I mean. Anyway, basically she goes on to explain that she had feelings for Blake. And again, it comes down to, the reason why she ends up explaining it is because Blake basically has this mindset of, like, this isn't you, I know what kind of person you are, I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this, to which Ilia then uses that, like, you obviously don't know because you didn't even know that I thought you were really attractive in some goddamn booty shorts. Like, you didn't realize that I wanted the cat. Do you get the euphemism? Point is, I was into it. I wanted your face and the rest of you that was attached to your face, which I thought it was done really well, because number one, I like that we have that extra representation. For a bit in a while now, we've had a couple, like, little nods and stuff here to, like, oh hey, there's a fucking, what the hell am I what is that? There's a homosexual couple over there, or there's this person who are together. That's cool. Like, it's this little bit of representation here and there, and that's really, really cool. That's always, especially in a world where there isn't that kind of weird bigotry that our world happens to have, for reasons I will never understand. But especially in a world like that, it is nice to see that, because it would make sense that it's there. And it was nice to see that in a main, or at least a noteworthy secondary character in the show, which I would definitely argue Ilia is a noteworthy player in the show, at least for the last volume or two. So having an openly gay character like that is very cool, and I really did enjoy that. Now again, I come back to the part where some people took exception to this, some people had issues with it. And it kind of brings me to a little point that I wanted to talk about, because the other day, earlier this week, I know that Carrie Shawcross, one of the two main writers of RWBY, as well as the director, had an interview with somewhere. I don't remember where. But he had an interview, and basically, at one point, that kind of discussion over representation and Ilia specifically came up. And Carrie had basically mentioned the struggle of trying to give representation without giving, I guess you could say, too much focus. Because too much and you're a pandering schmuck. Not enough, you're a bigoted asshole. And it basically comes down to something that, as a writer, I never really considered, but that's purely due to the fact that no one ever reads anything that I write. Oh my god, my voice. No one ever reads the shit that I come up with. But it's something that I never really considered, but after listening to people discuss it, like, oh, that makes sense, and I really wish it didn't. And it's basically the situation where when it comes to writing about characters like that, when it comes to writing about a minority character in that way, as a homosexual or a bi or something like that kind of character, it's very easy to be stuck in an unwinnable situation, because half the time, half the audience is going to freak out because you didn't do enough. Half the time, the audience is going to freak out because you did way too much. And it's one of those things which I saw when the episode first came out, and I was like, I couldn't understand. I'm just like, hey, you guys, hey, look, there's a gay character, and a noteworthy gay character too, and one that makes sense, one that isn't like fueled by, oh, yep, I'm gay, but it's just like, no, it's like, I am Ilia, and I also happen to think that pussy is fantastic. And it's and it's one of those things where I couldn't understand that some people did get upset. And from what I understand, most people, the vast majority, were totally okay and was like, oh no, this makes sense, that's great. It's representation, but it's not ridiculous, and I like that. And especially most of the people that I did see completely took the situation out of context. Like, again, I mentioned exactly how that goes down. The reason she explains that she liked Blake was because she's like, you don't know me, you really don't understand me like you claim to. Some people took that as, oh, the whole reason I do this is because you didn't want me, which is not at all the way the scene is portrayed. It's not at all the way Ilia would make sense as a character. Like, it would be completely out of character, make no sense, and would just be stupid. And if they had gone that way, I'd be like, yeah, that seems really like a poorly missed opportunity on that point. But they didn't do that. That's just the way a couple people saw it, and I thought it was really, really weird and stupid. And there was the other argument of, oh, well, she's a bad guy. She's a quote-unquote villain or a bad guy. She's an antagonist. So if she's gay, well, you can't make a gay character the bad guy because that paints everyone in a terrible light. Someone else had discussed this in the during that interview. Was like, in that no-win situation, they can't be a bad guy because they can't be flawed, because gay people can't be flawed, otherwise you're a bigoted piece of shit. Or a character can't die because that just means the writers would want to get rid of them. And it's like, it's crazy to think about that, but yeah, no, that's 100% right. I've seen it happen before. I've seen people have these bitchy, ridiculous, completely wrong-headed arguments for this shit before. And it's I don't know, it's really ridiculous to me, and it bothers me a lot. Hey guys, it's me from the future. Like, multiple weeks in the future. This episode was supposed to come out so long ago. Anyway, point is, today it's the 13th of February, which means a happy Valentine's Day very, very soon, people. I hope you get all up in and or around someone. Have a good time. Stay safe. Point is, I really just want to quickly throw something in this already way too long video, but it has to do with this very specific topic. The discussion of the being unable to win when it comes to writing LGBT characters. Because this is actually coming off of an AMA that Carrie, Miles, and Paula, the director of RWBY, had, like, literally earlier yesterday, I think it was. Anyway, it's basically coming off of that because another question actually came up about very specifically another character, which I feel okay with talking about, even though it's taking place significantly at the end of the season. But it involves a character that died in the second goddamn episode of the season, so that's probably okay. But anyway, it was the quick discussion about Pilot Boy, for those who do remember our Lord and Savior himself. It actually came up during the AMA. How much people actually really ended up enjoying that character, because a lot of people did. I've made a joke or two. He was a cool character. But it actually came out, I can't remember if it was Miles or Carrie that mentioned, I think it was Carrie. Correct me if I'm wrong. But during the AMA, he actually mentioned that originally the pilot was going to actually just make kind of a one-off comment about having a boyfriend back in Atlas or whatever it was. Mantos, I can't remember. I don't remember the thing, but the main point was he was originally supposed to throw like a quick throwaway line that he was gay. Which when I read that, I thought, it was really cool. I'm surprised. Why did you end up cutting that out? And ended up going down through the list and ended up talking about why they cut it out. And basically, it came down to, well, there was two main reasons, and number one, it's because Pilot Boy, he's a fun character, or he was a fun character. God rest his poor dead ass soul. But he was also kind of a selfish dick, which he kind of was. So again, that comes down to, gay people can't be villains or can't have any faults or something, which is one of the reasons why they did it, because they were worried about that a little bit, and more importantly, the fact that he literally died the next episode or the same episode that he mentioned it in. And a lot of people were like, it comes down to, I think I mentioned it in this episode, in this review cap extra here, how like, well, you can't have that because then you just want to get rid of these characters. They're just throwaways to be thrown in there and just get rid of. And eventually that was what the topic came down to, is that went to that, and they're like, okay, well, rather than get bitched and moaned at by the community, because that's probably what would happen, we just decided not to leave that part out. And again, that it really bothers me. It bothers me more than it should, considering it's fiction. But I think that's kind of the problem. It's just it's a fictional story with this thing. There's no reason for people to get upset about that kind of thing. You act like people who are just normal people, as you would consider them, because they're just normal people. They just happen to like certain different things that other people might not, that the average might not. But because of that, they're incapable of getting hurt. They're incapable of having flaws. They're incapable of anything. And I don't blame Carrie or Miles or anyone on the team, because apparently that was the thing, is they showed it off to everyone, like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And then everyone was like, well, maybe this is going to backfire. And the worst part is it probably would have. It probably would have. Considering the little bit that did end up backfiring just on Ilia, yeah, it probably would have. And it probably would have been a lot worse for whatever reason, just because it was I would say it's the first, but we also have had other small nods to, homosexual characters in the series as well. Just so much as even just like the first episode of the volume. But it's just, yeah, it's just something I really want to throw on. It plays into that it's a no-win scenario, and it really does kind of suck, because that would have been it would have been a nice little extra bit of touch to that character, not because it made that character inherently, oh, he's gay, so he's inherently a better character. No, but just because it added a little bit more to that character. Okay, so this guy wants to go get back home and hang with the person he fancies. I get that. That's cool. That shouldn't have been something that had to get removed because of fear of other people judging the show. That's basically the point I wanted to touch on. And it wasn't supposed to be a 6-minute interjection, but that's what it's turned into. I don't know. It's just something that I thought about and I wanted to throw in here. Apologize for the now, 50-minute long goddamn extra. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I'll let you get back to the thing. I apologize again for the the thing. Anyway, just something I want to talk about. Toodles. In the end, there was only a little bit of that. In the end, there was only so much of it. And I'm really glad that most people realized the situation and accepted it. And we're just like, hey, that's cool. We got a gay character. And she's dope. And it's not her defining trait. It's not anything. It's just something that she happens to also be. And that's cool. That's cool, too. And, you know, in the end, I was really happy with it. I like the dynamic. It means that now Blake has like 8 people who want her, which is a little much, but I mean, I had a phase as well where I thought she was very adorable. Don't stop judging me, and I may be going through that phase now. Proceeds to delete all of his Bumblebee Rule 34. Anyway, you know, it was I thought it was a really good scene, especially I really like, again, I always love the use of her chameleon traits to display her emotions, and the displaying of when she says, like, I wished you'd look at me like that, or whatever, and her eyes turn pink, and they're like, her freckles on her face turn pink as well. I really liked that. I like those touches. I really like those emotional touches from Ilia. Anyway, I'm gonna get off the fact how Ilia wants to get on Blake, and instead we're gonna go to the fact that the situation ends up ending because Blake learn something for once. And that's not like shitting on her character development or anything. That's just like poking fun at her character as she is, because again, people are inherently flawed. I was gonna say humans are inherently flawed, but not technically. You get what I'm trying to say. But she ends up learning from her mistakes of the past, and actually had brought Sun along to help her out of any potential trap situation which she was in, which was good, because she would have been sent to Adam's fucking fuck den or some shit. I don't know. Again, I don't want to imagine him with his shirt off going like, call me Christian Grey or some shit. I don't want this in my life. Adam, don't. Bad touch. I don't know why that's where my brain immediately goes. I know why. It's because I'm a fucking weirdo. You know, so Sun jumps into action, takes out Yuma. Blake, in turn, immediately turns around, takes out Trifa. Ilia's off on her way to make her way over to the Belladonna estate to kick a little cat ass. But do it like in a sad way, because she's like, I don't really want to, but I gotta. Anyway, and it's that point where, like, okay, Blake's like, okay, we need to get home. My parents are going to get murdered. We don't want this. We don't like these things that are happening. They're like, yeah, call the police, do something. I'm going to try and get a hold of my mom. And they go booking it towards the house. She calls her mom up. Obviously, there's no answer, because then we cut to the inside of the place, and there's bullets, and bunny people are dying, and Kylie's in a bad position. And then we go to another room, and then Gear is in a also bad position. He's over there fucking fighting people with his bear. Can we talk about that too? Is like, again, most people have weapons in RWBY. I mean, it's also a gun. But I do love every once in a while when we will get a character who doesn't have a weapon, or at least doesn't always have a weapon. Gear in that case being a good example of this kind of thing, as well as potentially another character of note, but we will get to that in a moment. We won't. We'll get to that in another episode. Gear basically goes on. He's fighting in that main hall, right, leading to the outside of the house. It's the little with the hall of the doors, and you come into the house. It was entrance. It's called an entrance, Shannon. You fucking idiot. And anyway. Gear is off fighting people in there, and he ends up losing another one of the Belladonna guards to Corsic and Fennec, which is something I was very interesting, because I did not in any way, shape, or form think that Corsic and Fennec were going to show up. Like, they just did not in any way seem like the type of people who were like, we're not even going to bother getting our hands dirty. Like, we got other people for that shit. But yeah, no, they're all there. We're like, I think it's a time our chieftains stand. No, wait, okay, Corsic voice. I think it's time, chief, you know, we're done. We're not gonna. Point is, they're gonna try and kill Gira, to which, and he takes exception to that. Tears off his shirt like the wild Tarzan boy that he is. Whips out claws a la Tuxen, which is another thing too. Is like, again, he doesn't have a weapon. He just loves karate chopping people, and then he breaks out the claws like Tuxen did, back in Volume 2, which I thought was cool, especially since a lot of people were again wondering what his traits were. In this case, it happens to be his claws, and I guess potentially his teeth. I wonder if that would all go into the same thing, because he does kind of get sharper teeth when he does that, and I don't know. The claws are noticeable, the teeth not. Moving on, and that basically, then they go to throw down, and he gives off a terrifying roar, and I kind of love it, and kind of scared me a little bit. Gira, don't hurt me. Anyway, and that's the end of the episode. And, you know, I really, really liked this episode. There was a lot of things to enjoy, but I absolutely adored the Ilia scene. The Weiss Yang scene is great. And everything else is really enjoyable, too. Again, I have to say, you know, Ilia as a character, through the development that we've gotten through her, or for her, during the last 2 seasons, has been really enjoyable, and I'm really glad that that character has managed to get fleshed out more and more and more. Pretty much ever since that the Blake character short for this volume came out, I was intrigued and interested about her as a character, and that has only continued to grow, and continues to grow in this episode. And I thought it was really good. I liked this episode a lot. So yeah, you want Shannon's patented rating system? That's pretty good. So, you know, I enjoyed it, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions on it as well as your guys' opinions on this video, which I feel like would get potentially a significantly less good rating. Stop it, Shannon. Okay, a significantly less good rating than the other one, because it is a rambly fucking mess. But you know what? It was an enjoyable rambly mess to make. Definitely not to watch. Anyway, I want to say thank you all so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to hit the like button. Comment if you guys had any opinions, have anything you guys thought about the episode, if you guys had anything in particular you'd want to discuss. And share it with your friends. I always appreciate that. That is, again, one of the single most powerful things you can do as a audience member is, you know, grow the audience. So I really do always appreciate that. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next RWBY Review Cap Extra, which we will talk about Perfect Storm, I believe is chapter 9, Perfect Storm. That's the one to talk about as well. Anyway, yeah. Tools, doers, and lemons, everybody. Bye-bye. I am Ilia, and I also happen to think that pussy is fantastic.